job, Aaron. This is a lot to balance, I know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go ahead and put up the Ripple slideshow, if you would. Oh, here he got it. That always works. If I just threaten that I'm going to do something technological, everybody scrambles. Oh, please don't do that.
I get the same reaction.
Oh, do you, Marty?
Yes.
So welcome, everybody. I hope everybody got a chance to have a little bit of a break. I know you didn't, Marty. You just hung in there, and several of you were on the previous session for at least part of the time. What an interesting conversation that was. So this is the Culture Ripples session, and if you can put up the next slide, we've been talking about how we're going to expand the culture of innovation at ASU. It's very much related to what Dr. Crow said this morning, and very much about what this whole Culture Ripples group is about. Next slide, please. So big shout out. We have a lot of presenters today. These are all members of the Culture Ripples design team who have been working since December to help us create the sort of architecture of what will it look like when we have an ASU-wide culture community. And you'll be hearing from all of them in just a minute. Next slide, please. So what we'd like to see as our outcomes from this session is that everybody's had a chance to participate in, this is really the inaugural meeting of the Culture Ripples Community of Practice, so that we see how that goes and how you all feel about it. We're hopefully going to gain some understanding of the relationship between culture and innovation, which I did a little bit in the plenary, but I'll do a bit more here. We're going to have appreciative interviews that you all will go into breakouts to conduct. We'd like to determine some ideas from our session, and sign up for Culture Weavers Community of Practice if you're interested in getting the information on that. Next slide, please. So I'm going to do one of our foundational practices, which is we take a minute at the beginning of meetings to get centered. And the way we do that is I ring a bell at the beginning and at the end of 1 minute. And while you're being quiet, you can either close your eyes or let your eyes rest somewhere so they're not busy. It helps your brain to calm down. And while you're being quiet, just notice the sort of quality of your inner state. And when we come back in a minute, you're going to put that in the chat. So here comes the bell. So I invite you all to just put in a word or a phrase about your inner state. Happy, hopeful, present, excessively caffeinated, nice, unsettled, animated, optimistic, curious, peaceful, mindful of everything. Very nice. You can continue to put that in the chat as we do the next slide, which will help us talk about the relationship between culture and innovation. So this Mobius represents the flow of energy between culture and innovation. They're really not two separate things. They're integrated. But we do have a tendency to focus on one thing at a time. So sometimes we're focusing internally, both internally in terms of our organization or our team, and sometimes we are focused more externally, looking outward to see what we're doing and what our impact is. So for our purposes today, culture is made up of the values and the practices. This is one of them that we just did. Um, our behaviors, the way we are with each other, and then enabling structures that make it possible for us to create the culture that we want. Then that feeds right on out to innovation. Sorry, Erin. And the impact that we have in the world. And some of that work looks like creating the goals and objectives and what the activities are in the work that we do and measuring our outcomes. Okay, next one. So a little history. The Culture Ripples design team, many of whom are here today to help present, started meeting in December, and over the 6-month period of time that we met, created the sense of what is trying to happen at ASU culturally. We did that together over many meetings, and towards the end of our time, we created an action plan with some strategic priorities that we'll go forward with in FY21. Next slide, please. Yeah. So here's the gang at some of the different meetings that we've had. I don't suppose I've gotten everybody, because altogether we had about 35 people from across ASU who participated in the design team. We just deliberately designed it so that we were inviting people from all across the university system, every level, every function, every department at ASU, and colleges at ASU. And then we also just people would hear about it and say, I'd be interested. And so we just kept adding to those numbers. There's a URL there on the right-hand side of the screen where you'll be able to go and take a look at the action plan that we created. So the next slide, and we're going to describe that in just a minute. So about midway through our time together, we created a vision. A Culture Ripples vision. What would this look like? Next slide. And it is, ASU intentionally builds a collaborative and transparent culture which ripples out from the heart of the ASU IT community, transforming the technical and relational architectures necessary for democratized learning and living. And while we're still on this slide, just think about how the IT community, and I think Dr. Crow alluded to this today, he called it a pulsating center at one point. The IT community at ASU really can be the people that are the agents of cultural change all across the system. Next slide, please. And another one. So, Philip.
Hi, I'm Philip Tarrant.
Yeah.
Sorry, Christine. Hi, I'm Philip Tarrant. I'm the Research Data Management Officer for Knowledge Enterprise. And part of what we were talking about is a community of practice. Next slide, please. And so the idea is that we're going to create and leverage the community in order to improve our innovation and cultural development. And we want to create a gathering space in order to do that, in order to design and learn and then practice some of these best practices that we identify. Next slide, please. And so we're going to have a community of practice. We're going to have regular meetings. They'll be on the last Tuesday of every month at 2 p.m. So that's something that you can put into your calendar as a recurring event. They'll be hosted by various members, and basically in the early stages that will be on Zoom, but the idea is for them to be a real opportunity for people to connect and network, and in order to discuss these ideas and to grow and develop as an organisation. So the next meeting will be on Tuesday the 26th of May, and it will be on Zoom, and obviously this link will be available to you. And, you know, they're not compulsory, they are entirely optional, but we encourage people to come and join and see what develops from them. We hope that they're going to be, you know, an environment where people can just grow and learn and also share the ideas that work for them in their part of the organisation. That's me. Next slide.
Thanks, Philip. So I talked a minute ago about the action plan, and I see some notes in the chat about where can we sign up. We will do that at the end of this session. We'll have an opportunity for you to give us your name, and you can always either Slack me or email me. I'm Christine Whitney Sanchez at asu.edu. It's christine.whitney.sanchez. So next slide, please. As I said, we went through a process together using a framework called the Strategic Collaboration Framework, and we ended up with these strategic priorities for FY21. That we would do some community building, some culture mapping, diversity and inclusion work, and a lot of emphasis on self-awareness. Next slide, please. And to tell us a little bit more about that, about each one of these, I'm going to turn over to Carol and Laura. Would you introduce yourselves, please?
Sure, I'm Carol Flores. I'm the Business Operations Manager in the Biodesign Sweetie Center for Environmental Biotechnology. Our Culture Ripples design team defines the community building strategic priority as building trust and building relationships between people. Our community of practice will enable increased engagement that fosters positive growth throughout ASU by establishing a buddy system in order to develop meaningful relationships across ASU within and beyond one's immediate department, center, institute, school, campus, or discipline, but also by seeking endorsement as well as participation by senior leadership, recruiting participants across all levels of faculty, staff, and other workers like student workers, and thereby decreasing workplace loneliness and increasing feelings of connectedness and shared purpose.
Very nice. Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Carol. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Polk, the Director of Online Education from the Thunderbird School of Global Management. In an effort for us to better support overall community building, we will provide a structure and a regular cadence to get on your radar. We would also encourage and engage with our ASU team at large to meet them where they are at versus prescribe a one-size-fits-all solution. Our goal is to champion the success of the people who frequently engage and use them as role models to share best practices. We will provide ideas and activities for community building with flexible timeframes and platforms to provide the most inclusive experience that we can. We look forward to building community with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura and Carol. And there's a question in the chat that I want to get back to about how did we invite people to the original group, but I'll do that at the end of these slides. So next up we have Jenny and Adero.
Hi everyone, I'm Jenny Blair. I work as an Assistant Director in Enrollment Services, and I'm also an Adjunct Professor with University Success Programs. And I'm here to talk with Adero about culture mapping, which is basically just about storytelling. It's about giving people a chance to use their own words to talk about their own best memories of their times here at ASU. It's about asking reflective questions, giving people a chance to really use their own language to describe their interactions with the university.
I'm Daryl Allison, Assistant Director from the Disability Resource Center. Appreciative inquiry is one way that we create the space for these stories. We sit with you, we listen deeply, ask thoughtful questions, allowing your stories to come forth. The process is appreciative inquiry, is appreciative because we truly want to hear and be present with you. The results are positive because we ask you to share what moves you. Together, cultural mapping and appreciative inquiry bring forth stories that help shape our tomorrows. Today, through appreciative inquiries you will participate in, we will provide an opportunity for you to share your best stories about ASU.
Thank you, Jenny and Adero. And now Lori and Eddie are going to talk about diversity and inclusion. Although, you know, Eddie, are you here? Because I know Lori was having trouble getting in. Are you here to just do it?
I am here, but she was going to do most of the talking, and I was just going to fill in. So
I'm here.
Oh, there she goes.
Oh,
Okay. I was going to add some stuff afterwards, but she was going to take the lead.
Okay, well, take it away, Lori.
Okay, well, now I just lost my little thing here. It's okay. I'm Lori Johnson. I'm manager of Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services here at Arizona State University. And ASL is my actual first language. Eddie, whoops. No, seriously, I lost my, okay. Here it is. Okay. When we discussed our diversity and inclusion, we wanted to be very intentional, saying that we were broadening the scope of what diversity is. We didn't want to just go with race, gender, ethnicity. We really want to encompass all identities that hold a unique perspective here at ASU and on the programming that happens at ASU. Consider, for example, able-bodiedness, what others consider disability, along with all those other cultures that you have not lived or experienced. We wanted everyone to be intentional in talking to other people and bringing them in. Perhaps those are her quieter people, perhaps because they don't have English as their first language, because they can add a new light on programming because it would impact them differently than it does you. When you interview people, really listen. Let them define what feeling included feels like. We shouldn't be the ones determining how they are included. They need to express how inclusion feels for them. And that way we can ripple that out and more people will feel included and feel comfortable to say what their marginalized perspective sees as programming as a best fit.
Very nice, Lori. Thank you. Eddie, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, the one thing I want to add is, like, we can have all these fancy words, but I just think we want to be about it. We want to take action and to hear different perspectives and allow people to feel comfortable and bring those different things into the community. So I don't want us just to have a bunch of fancy buzzwords. I really want us to act on it. So.
Well, that's a perfect segue to the final one, which is self-awareness, because we can't be about it if we don't have self-awareness. So Gina and Antonio.
Good morning. My name is Jean Squires. I am a program coordinator with the Product Service and Readiness team with UTO. And I just wanted to briefly state self-awareness is not self-judgment. It is looking, seeing, and discovering who you really are. Self-awareness involves monitoring our stress, thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. It is important because it's a major mechanism in influencing personal development.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Eddie, Lori. I mean, I think you guys have nailed it when you talk about self-awareness and being intentional. You have to be very intentional about self-awareness. And self-awareness for me is a recognition of one's own emotional state at any given point. So it's almost you take yourself out and you look from outside to within and you pay attention to how you're acting, how you're reacting in an emotional way. And I think that's truly when you understand yourself and you are very self-aware of what's going on. So very well, again, thank you all. That was beautifully done. From the intentional perspective, we have to be very intentional about the things that we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Antonio and Jean. Really nice. So we're going to move to the question slide. As we've done before, if you have any questions, please keep putting them in the chat, and Eddie's going to be capturing those. We're not going to answer them quite yet because we want to be sure and get to the next part, which is where you all come in. We're going to do appreciative interviews, and the way that works. So yeah, let me say a bit about appreciative interviews. It's a primary practice of mine for many years. I was one of those people that got attracted to appreciative inquiry in the early days and realized that the change that we want to see often happens the moment you step into a conversation with someone. So it's back to that self-awareness and how we're behaving and whether we're open and inclusive and all of that stuff. And so in a few minutes, we've got some questions and we've got a Google form for you to use to document what's happening in your breakout. Erin, can I ask you, how much time do you think we have for this so that we can get out of our session on time? Everybody realizes we're running a bit behind.
Yeah, definitely. Let's take a look here. So I believe we're supposed to be back at the main room at 11:13. So we probably have about 7 to 10 minutes for this.
7 to 10. Well, I said 12 total. So let's see if we can't stretch it to 10.
Okay.
So you have
Yeah.
10 minutes in the breakout. And the first thing to do is to decide when you get there, who's going to interview whom first. And it's your choice. You can either have one person just do the interviewing and taking the notes, and that's your whole 10 minutes, or you can split it up. Eddie's going to give you a little warning about halfway through and say, hey, it's time to switch roles if that's something that you want to do. And I am going to give you a minute to ask questions here in case these instructions aren't clear. So it looks good. So Eddie is going to do his, Aaron is going to do his magic thing and take us all into breakout rooms so that we can be paired up with one other person and conduct these interviews. Have a good time.
Hi, this is Dale.
Good to meet. Hey, Dale. Tom, how are you? How are you this morning?
Good. Tom, I'm at the University Design Institute. I'm the director of digital innovation. What do you do now?
Excellent. Good to meet you, Dale. I'm the senior director of security under UTO. I work with Tina quite a bit, our CISO.
Nice.
Oh.
I worked with Tina probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Excellent. Oh, I got bumped back to Aaron.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten broken out yet.
I started to break out, then it bumped me back here. I had a breakout with Dale, then it bumped me back here.
Well, I heard your
Sorry
conversation.
about that. 1 minute.
It's okay.
Technical difficulties.
TJ, all right.
Yeah, it looks like some of us just didn't get broken, right?
Did you get teamed up with somebody?
Not yet.
Okay.
Hey, Aaron, are you in the room?
Yes. Yeah.
Ah, good. Okay. What happened for us, and I don't know if it happened for other people, is that we had a whole bunch of people in our breakout, not just two.
Not just two?
Right. And so I
Oh,
set it
okay.
up, and you don't need to mess with it at this point, but I wonder if that might have happened to some other people as well. People will figure it out.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So what I'd like to do is reconnoiter with you about how we're going to flow through the rest of the time, because we need to be finished at
11:13 is when everyone needs to.
11:13. So we have 8 more minutes.
Yeah, so I think in order for me to match 2 people at a time, I would have to do it all by hand. I'm pretty sure.
I see. Okay. Well, don't do it now because we can't mess with this.
Okay.
What we will need to do is come back. I don't know how long it's been because I was helping them set up their group. So how long have we been in the breakout?
For about 5 minutes, so.
Okay, you want to give them the warning?
Yeah. When did you want to pull them back?
Give them another 5.
minutes?
Yeah, give them another 3 minutes or so.
Okay.
Yeah. $11:13. Holy cow! Is that because we're going back at 11:30?
Yeah, I think so. Everything got pushed back, so that's why.
I know.
It's
I was
kind of
so aware of
overwhelming.
it in the moment. I knew exactly, like, oh dear. As soon as Lev asked the question, it was a great response. So I'm not sorry we did it. It just really put a lot of pressure on all the presenters to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No worries, we're flexible. We got this.
That's it.
This is
Exactly.
the first time that this is happening, and I don't think there's better people for the job to do it.
I do agree with you on that.
So did Crow do a speech then?
Yeah, he did his little speechy thing, and then he said, so do we have time for questions? He obviously hadn't read our little form.
Yeah.
Or at least lately. And then Lev asked him a question that he knew would excite the heck out of Michael, and it did, and he just talked quite a bit about Dreamscape and all the possibilities that are going on there. So
Oh wow. Cool.
it really turned everybody on though. So
Yeah.
That's all good.
That's awesome.
So let's see, we've got.
Are you good to pull them back now?
Not quite.
Okay.
I want to do another.
I think that they'll realize like we went over, so maybe they'll give us a little bit of a buffer there.
I'm putting in a new slide that says so can you see on the slide right now that comes after the appreciative interviews, can you switch to that?
That one?
Oh, I must be in a different version. Yeah, I was adding a slide, but never mind. When they come back to the big ideas slide, go ahead with that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to take a minute and ask them a question before I turn it over to Kristen.
Okay, perfect.
And you can bring them back, I think.
Okay. Bringing them back in 30 seconds now.
Okay, awesome.
Big ideas. Consider it shared.
Good, and you've got that in the chat as well?
Yep.
Okay, we'll need to probably do it more than once as people are coming back.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you, James and Paul.
Nice.
I was dumped into a chat room with a breakout room with about 10 people, so we couldn't figure out how to do the interview.
I know. Yeah, Erin and I were just talking about that. So sorry about that, everybody. I'm going to assume that you punted and that you figured out something to do.
We discussed culture at length.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're about to go to submitting big ideas. So the idea here is that we wanted to give ourselves a chance to feed the thinking for what's going to come next in the plenary session. So in the plenary, we're going to also be broken out into small groups to discuss big ideas and then surface what the top ones are. So this is a way, Kristen, I'm going to turn it over to you. This is a way for us to do this in this venue here.
Hi, everyone. So if you go out, and Erin, if you want to let me, well, so go to this link. If you let me share, then I'll just share the spreadsheet.
I can share it in the chat.
Okay. If you want to start entering in your ideas, they'll start showing up on the spreadsheet we have where we can see different ideas so that we can then, if you want to steal someone's idea or have your own to take forward, however you'd like to do this, just some different things, some ideas you have about culture's catalyzing effect on innovation. Looks like we have one idea so far.
That's good.
And the hope is, yeah.
We have a couple of minutes for this.
Yeah. And your idea could be maybe a call to action also for expanding involvement. And if you saw the video from this morning about the pizza, we definitely take these ideas seriously. So whatever they are, however crazy they might seem, we'd want to hear them.
Is there a way, Kristen, to show the screen of the spreadsheet?
Do you have the link, or do you want me to put it in the chat?
Could you put it in the chat, please?
Yeah.
I submitted an idea.
Yeah, I see it.
Allows freedom of acceptance and adaptation. Culture allows freedom of, that's very nice. Culture of communication, tribal knowledge sharing is great. Appreciate inquiry throughout the university. Great idea. We'll have another 20 seconds or so on this. You've got the link now, so keep on adding even after we go to our next slide. So as you can see, Erin has put up the way to sign up for the Culture Ripples Community of Practice right now is to put your name and your ASU right if you have time for that in the chat. That way we'll be sure and send you the info and you'll end up having a calendar invite. And as I said earlier, if you are wanting to participate but didn't catch it in time, just feel free to look me up, Slack me, or email me, Christine Whitney Sanchez. And the final slide, please, Erin. So how are you leaving this mini session? It's been interesting, and think about what, of everything that happened, of your talks and your breakouts and everything that's gone on so far today, what has had the most heart and meaning for you? These are just ideas about what you can think about. What questions do you have for more inquiry? What's inspired you? And what are you taking with you? So if you'll please put that in the chat. And then Erin is going to open up the mics so that everybody can give a word or a phrase just right on top of each other. It's really okay about how you're leaving this session.
Will be very helpful to me and to everyone else in terms of talking about what does responsible innovation mean for us, if anything, and what do we want to do moving forward. We're very much, like I said, here on the getting to work input stage. Then we hope to take those inputs, curate them into some sort of plan, and then go through the additional stages here. This is the general plan for all of
Erin,
our
is there a way
LNC work streams
to
very early on this one. And with that, any final questions before we return you to the broader session?
thanks for hanging in there, everyone. Way to do it was to mute all participants.
Yeah, sorry about that. It looks like we still had some people from the last group mixed in, so.
Okay, that's all right. This is totally an experiment, as you all know. So I want to thank you all so very much. I'm grateful for the people that have put things into the chat. We are going to need to meet back at the next session at 11:30, I believe. Is that right, Erin?
Yes.
And so you've got a little time. I'm going to hang out here. And this would be a good time to ask me some questions, but we do need to be back in the main session. You'll just be pulled back there, I think. Is that right? Do they have to go on the website and click?
Yeah, so you'd have to go back on the website and join the main session from there. Yeah.
Okay. So let me answer the question that came up earlier about how did we pinpoint who to invite. So the way I started the process was I asked everybody I could think of, do you know anyone from, and I would list all the different colleges and departments who is interested in culture or might be doing something in their job that has to do with culture. So I started with that group. But really after the very first session, and Carol, you might be a good person to speak to this, people started being interested even though they weren't IT people, even though that wasn't their main role. Do you want to say anything, Carol?
Sure. Actually, I saw you at the, I can't remember, organizational
Excellence Community.
Excellence Community of Practice. You were a speaker there, and I was really excited that you were talking about this. So I contacted you, and you invited me to be on the team. And and just recently, I've been learning that, not just recently, but around the same time, I learned that Knowledge Enterprise was embarking on this exploration of the Gallup Q12 culture. It's a survey that people take to find out how they're feeling and how engaged they are in their jobs. And so I felt like there was a great connection, and I feel very hopeful that Knowledge Enterprise and Biodesign, where I work, could somehow come together with this initiative. We're all working towards the same thing, and I hear a lot of the same questions being asked, and so I think we could all benefit from each other. There are a few of my colleagues here in this session right now, and not only that, but my center at Biodesign is very interested in culture.
That's great. And you brought in lots of terrific metaphors for us to work with when we were thinking about change and culture. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question right now? And I may have missed it in the chat. And has everyone had a chance to let us know if they want to be a part of the next meeting and be invited to that?
Yeah, so this looks a little more cross-organizational than Culture Weavers. Is that the correct impression?
Yeah, that's right, Marty. We do have some Culture Weavers who are part of it, and you're very welcome to jump right in. But we didn't want to overpopulate with UTO people, so we invited people from all across the university, just all the names that we could find.
Yeah, I could. In agile terms, I'd happy to be a chicken and not a pig, because I'm really interested in seeing what's going on across the university.
Awesome. Yeah, come on in.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. That was one of the reasons that the goal or our mission description or whatever you call it indicates IT, not UTO, because IT comes in so many different places. I was hired as a technology specialist within the Disability Resource Center. So.
Yeah, thank you, Daryl. Right.
All right, well, I think that's all the time we have for today's culture session. I want to thank everyone for joining, and Christine.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody. And thanks, Erin, for your support. I know this was a lot of stuff to juggle. Nice
My
job.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Good job, Erin. Good job.
We'll see you guys back at the main session.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.